The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Tia from John Burton Advocates for You. Thank you for joining us today on our FAFSA Challenge webinar. If you are joining us today, you can call in to listen on. There's also a handout that you will be able to access on the right side of your screen. You'll be able to download the handout for today's slides. Okay. In the interest of time, we're going to begin on time today. So again, if you wanted to call in to listen, you are more than welcome to do so. There's some instructions on the screen. Presentation materials are going to be available on our website after the webinar. They'll be posted to the FAFSA Challenge page as well as in our training archives page. At the end, you'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to submit live questions throughout the presentations. You will use the questions panel, and then you click send to send your question. We will be facilitating questions and answers at the end of the webinar. All right, so today's panelists, we're very fortunate to have a robust set of panelists today. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to present. We have myself here at John Burton Advocates for Youth, overseeing the FAFSA Challenge and supporting the counties through this academic year. We have Liberty Van Natten from the California Department of Education, Santiago Morales from California Student Aid Commission, and Maria Tello from Los Angeles County Office of Education to discuss best practices that's happening in Los Angeles County. So thank you again for participating in today's webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about what the FAFSA Challenge goals are for this year. And then we're going to give you a little bit of background as to why the FAFSA Challenge exists, some history and the goals from the last couple of years. And then we're actually going to hear from Department of Education and talk about a really cool data tool that's available to you as you're working through the challenge. So we have 4 goals that are happening this year. We're sliding into our 3rd year, so we are going to be maintaining some really robust goals. Our first goal is a statewide FAFSA completion goal of 65%. For the last 2 years, it's actually been 60%. We've increased that by 5% because we've seen such a really great increase in the last 2 years. The second is institutionalization. The processes and procedures that you have come up with to work with your stakeholders in the county to get FAFSAs done with your students. There's a lot of really great stuff that is happening in the ground locally, and we want to make sure that we're capturing this information and that it doesn't live with only one person. Therefore, we're going to be working locally and statewide to figure out how do we institutionalize the challenge to make sure that if yourself leaves or a staff member leaves, how do we make sure that FAFSAs and the processes and procedures are still happening in your county? Goal number 3 is to increase access to the Cal Grant. As we have gone through this process, we have learned that there are some holes that students fall through, especially with the GPA match. CSAC is on the call today to talk about how to match GPAs to ensure that students are actually accessing the Cal Grant. And how do you work with your high schools and the district to make sure that if students are moving around, they actually still have access to the Cal Grant. Okay, so we're going to be working a lot individually and locally to make sure that students have access to it. And then finally, increasing FAFSA completion amongst non-traditional students and that are sitting in non-traditional settings. And so how do we make sure that we're working with our non-public schools, our juvenile halls, alternative ed education students to make sure that they are receiving the same level of outreach and support that students that are in traditional settings are receiving. Okay, so let's quickly review the purpose of the FAFSA Challenge. Research has demonstrated that financial aid can make a difference between graduation and transferring to obtain a degree. 49% of students who had at least $7,500 worth of financial aid were able to transfer or graduate. Conversely, we see that only 17% of students who had received $1,000 to $2,500, only 17% of those had actually transferred or graduated. And so as we see, financial aid is what's making the difference to support these students in reaching their educational goals, whether they're receiving that certificate or moving on to transfer. If we look at CalPAS Plus data from 2017-2018, we see that the majority of students that are enrolled in community colleges, 76% of them are receiving the California College Promise Grant. That's our tuition waiver. You may also have known it. It's formerly known as the BOG fee waiver. But less than half are accessing the Pell Grant, the Cal Grant, and other crucial pieces of financial aid that they need. And the beginning of these pieces begins with a FAFSA, completing a FAFSA through ensuring that that is submitted and that students receive the support to finish that FAFSA. Okay, so given the data that I previously shared, the FAFSA challenge began in partnership with the California Department of Education, the California Community Colleges, and we launched the California Foster Youth Challenge in 2017. The premise was that County Office of Education's Foster Youth Services Coordinating Programs would identify their foster youth seniors. They would engage stakeholders to get FAFSAs completed with their students. The majority of counties now are using CSAC's or the California Student Aid Commission's web grant system. This system is a state database that allows FYSCPs to definitively see if a student has finished a FAFSA or not. This is huge as you are working towards your own individual county goals. Just make sure that students are doing it as you're working with your stakeholders. And so it's important to note that the goal for the past 2 years was 60%. We saw in the first year that the result was 47%. In the second year, we had increased it by approximately 10%. It's huge, 10% increase in only 1 year. Counties throughout the state are really making sure to move the needle to make sure that foster youth have access to the most financial aid resources so that they can begin their academic journey with a robust set of money. Great job, everyone. I'm really excited. Later on, I'll reveal who our round 2 winners are, and we'll talk about, yeah. However, at this point, I want to make sure that we introduce Liberty Van Natten. She's the Education Research and Evaluation Consultant for the Department of Education to discuss a new data tool that'll be offered to the state, that's offered through the state to make sure that, to support your efforts in your respective counties.
Hi, thank you, Tia. I want to start today by focusing on the CDE's mission, which is to provide a world-class education for all students. And the reason for this education is ultimately to prepare students to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. And as we know, a high school diploma is one of the biggest barriers to equitable access to college. So today I'd just like to share with you all some educational outcomes for foster youth in California to basically just frame the conversation around the important work of ensuring foster youth complete a FAFSA. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this graph compares four-year graduation rates for foster students and non-foster students in the 2017-18 school year. And here we see a difference of 30 percentage points in graduation rates between students who were foster and students who did not enter foster care. The next slide, please. This graph compares the college-going rates for foster and non-foster students who graduated in the 2017-18 school year. And here we can also see a significant disproportionality in outcomes. 48% of foster youth went to college compared to 64% of non-foster. We can go to the next slide, please. So for those of you who haven't used DataQuest very much or at all, this slide is showing just some of the different reports on educational outcomes available on DataQuest. The arrows are pointing to the graduation rate and college-going rate data, which were represented in the two previous slides. These can be accessed under the subject drop-down menu. Next slide, please. And then once you have selected and are viewing the actual report that you want, you can disaggregate your view of the report by selecting a plus sign next to the report options and filters. And this is a relatively new feature on DataQuest, and it really expands what you can and can't do and view in the report. Next slide, please. And then from there, you can click on the program subgroups drop-down menu to select foster. This drop-down also allows users to view the report for other student groups. And then once you're here, you can toggle between foster yes and foster no so that you can compare foster students to the students who were not foster. And again, this is how I pulled the data for the slides that we previously viewed. Next slide, please. So as many of you know, once you look at other outcomes for foster youth, the graduation and college-going rates are not the only ones which show a disproportionality in outcomes. So here's the link where you can access these reports on the CDE website. But before I hand this presentation back over to Tia to really get the conversation started on the FAFSA challenge specifically, I really just want to say that CDE supports and commends the efforts of John Burton Advocates for Youth by focusing on the FAFSA challenge. We all know that paying for college is often one of the biggest barriers to ensuring that all students have access to a higher education. And this effort it's not small, it's critical if we are going to see improved educational outcomes for foster youth on the reports on DataQuest, and specifically if we really want to increase the rate of foster youth going to college. So thank you for allowing me to participate today, and I look forward to the rest of this.
Thank you so much, Liberty. I really appreciate the fact that you're able to talk to us about a really great tool, and hopefully that your counties find this to be a really useful tool as you are progressing through the challenge this year. So there are a lot of new and updated things that we have for this year. We have, for example, we have updated our resources. And so at this point, you will be able to access the updated toolkit and updated web grants guide and updated policies and procedures. We have updated the internal tracking tool, which I will discuss soon about how you can actually use this tool to track youth that are in your county as well. We are also coming out with a high school counselor toolkit. This will be coming soon and is unfortunately not ready yet, but it will be soon. I really wanted to thank Los Angeles County for really partnering with us and really came up with the idea and worked through the summer to get a really robust and awesome toolkit. So we are hoping to have that available on the FAFSA Challenge website and on our website very soon. We have also updated the financial aid guides, and so there are very minor edits, but this is going to be for the upcoming academic year, and you should be available to download on the website. And I will also talk about ordering promotional items soon, and then also report timing. So we have done a lot of internal talking in the field with many of you, the FYCPs, and we have actually moved the report timing from October 1st to begin tracking on November 1st. This is going to allow you to build your lists, identify your students, talk to your stakeholders, really create some really awesome processes and goals, and start tracking FAFSA completion and students that are in your county beginning November 1st. Now, if you have completed a FAFSA with a youth or they have came into the county in October, we want to reward you for getting that FAFSA done. And so if you have a student that has finished a FAFSA in October, that's going to count towards your goals. We're not going to penalize you against that. I'm also going to talk about Foster Focus and how that will also be a tool that is updated as well for you to use. Okay, and so what is the general process? Many of you, as I'm talking to you throughout the state, have really identified a process. So the process throughout the state generally goes pulling and identifying your students using that CalPADS 5.7 report, running a Web Grants report with your identified seniors and identifying who has completed a FAFSA and who has not. Then you're tracking that FAFSA completion, either on Foster Focus, on an internal tracking sheet, or whatever your county's process is that you've decided. You're then notifying your stakeholders, your ed liaisons, ILP, your other child welfare partners, whoever else is working with the student, and then completing the FAFSA with that youth. And then the process starts all over again. Typically, we see this process happening anytime between, usually people are pulling lists weekly or bi-weekly, running Web Grants reports bi-weekly or monthly, and then tracking completion through the end of the academic year. All right, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about this year's challenge. So again, the high school seniors in your county that are counted are in your county for 30 plus days on or after November 1st. Again, this is a change from last year. Last 2 years was beginning October 1st. This academic year, we are beginning it on November 1st. So again, it is seniors in your county from November 1st on for 30 or more days. Again, FAFSAs that are completed between October 1st and November 30th are included in your total. If it's not completed, don't include them in your total. We want to make sure that we're rewarding you for getting FAFSAs done. We don't want to penalize you. Okay, so who is included in these numbers? This is just a review. All foster youth who are in 12th grade and 12th grade seniors that are in traditional and non-traditional settings. So this will include students that are enrolled in charter, our non-public schools, alternative education, continuing education, juvenile halls, students that are on independent study, and our non-diploma track students. Okay. We are doing awards again this year. We have 5 award categories. We have very small county, medium county, and large county. We are, this number is set by the number that is submitted to us when you initially register. So if you, and it's based on the number of seniors that you have in that year. So it is possible that you were considered a small county in one year, and you had an influx of students that came in another year, and you're bumped up to the medium category. This did happen last year, and so if you're noticing a new category, it's likely because you have more or less students in this academic year. And then we are also going to be rewarding the most improved. And this is from the most improved from last year. And so I'm really excited to see who is going to be improving on their numbers from last year's. I want to also make sure that we acknowledge our winners from last year, from our last round 2 winners. We have from our very small county of Mariposa County. We have Kings County, who won our small county. We have Fresno County, who won medium county, large county, Riverside County. And I'm very excited to report that Los Angeles County won our most improved this year. We'll also hear from Los Angeles County to hear what they're actually doing locally to really improve on those numbers and what they're going to be doing upcoming to make sure that they're meeting and exceeding that goal of 65%. Okay, so how do you actually participate this year? It's very similar to how it happened last year. You will receive a link, which was actually emailed to you this morning. You will register for the challenge. You can also access this link to register on the FAFSA Challenge webpage. Counties are going to be reporting twice this year. This is also a slight change. They'll be reporting in March, and you'll also be reporting in May. And then we will have our awards for those counties who have completed the most FAFSAs in their counties and or they have improved on their numbers. All right. And so tracking completion. So there are 2 ways that you can track completion that I've generally seen through the state. Many counties are utilizing Foster Focus. And so those of you that are utilizing Foster Focus, they are aware of the new reporting updates and making changes as we speak. We're hoping to have the updates reflected mid-October. I will keep you updated on when the actual changes are reflected, but you will still be able to utilize Foster Focus to build your list of 12th graders and track FAFSA completions. Many of you are also utilizing the internal tracking sheet that JBay has. Here you just see a sample of students. We have updated it to reflect this year's changes. And so if you see in yellow, it will automatically track students' FAFSAs that are completed and the students that are counted. And these are the numbers that you'll use when you're reporting to us in March and May. Okay, and you have resources available for you to reach your goals. In addition to the FAFSA Challenge page, you also have promotional materials. Within 24 hours of registering for the challenge, you'll receive a link to order your promotional materials. And then, so you still have posters, we have stickers, we do have updated guides that are coming in. We're hoping to get those out in November once you place your orders. And at this time, because I know that most people throughout the state are using web grants, I want to introduce Santiago Morales from California Student Aid Commission to talk about web grant system, some troubleshooting things, and what to be aware of when matching GPAs to ensure that students have access to the Cal Grant.
Great, thank you, Tia. So getting started, again, my name is Santiago with the California Student Aid Commission. Getting started with web grants. We can go to the next slide, please. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. So what type of access to county Office of Education have with the web grants administrators receive? So we can go to the next slide. I'm going to show you an example of the form that you would fill out in order to get access. But once you have access, the county system administrators have access to the following web grant screens for WASC accredited public high schools within your county that have a College Board ID. So you would be able to see the GPA, the school info, you'd be able to see the data transfer, you'd be able to do data transfer, and you'd be able to pull reports on the non-SSA GPAs that were uploaded, excuse me. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is an example of the web grants access form. So you want to have your authorized official, help complete this, and you have up to 3 system administrators that would have this. This is designated by the county superintendent. It needs to be renewed every 2 years. We need complete information. There's a confidentiality training every 2 years as well. And this would give you, again, give you access to the GPA reports for public schools within the county offices of education. And again, renewing the access, again, it's every 2 years. So you would have to complete the same form, mark the box that says renew. If authorized official does have somebody that no longer is with the county or in a different position, they would have to send in the form to disable that user. Next slide, please. If you don't have access to web grants, maybe because there's a maximum of 3 people, 3 SAs that can be assigned. We encourage you to partner with other system administrators to assist with the student education and outreach programs. Just participate in like Cash for College or different events to help educate students about the GPA requirement. We encourage students to strive for an unweighted 3.0 GPA. So students always get confused with the GPA being a weighted and unweighted. So for Cal Grant purposes, we look at an unweighted GPA. So you want to make sure they strive for a 3.0 GPA, and that's usually on most report cards they'll show both. Just remind students to submit test results for the ACT, SAT, or if they have a GED or TASC or HiSET in lieu of a GPA. So that's a manual process form that will need to be submitted if they're, for example, homeschooled or if their high school is not regionally accredited. So you just want to make sure you help students creating their web grants for students portal as well. Can we go to the next slide, please? The GPA reports. So the GPA reports are used to confirm the GPA uploads, identify matched and unmatched GPAs, and also, most importantly, outreach to the students with unmatched GPAs or missing incomplete financial aid applications. So the GPA reports, from the portal menu, you would go to where it says Web Grants. Next, you'd go to the Web Grants menu and click on Data Transfer. And then the next step would be go to the Report Download option. On the, you'll have multiple reports on here. If you're missing any of these report options, you definitely want to talk to your authorized official so you can gain access to these reports. But you would have an option to either download a data file, which is usually a text file, or a report, which would come in like, the data file, excuse me, would come in Excel, and the report would be in a text file. So that's your option. You could always take the report and download it through Excel as well if you know how to do that. So you could, that's how you'd pull reports for each one. And the next couple slides, I'll show you an example of how that report looks like. And just to reiterate, I've already mentioned this before, but how this non-SSN GPA report is used again is to confirm the matched GPAs, identify any unmatched GPAs, and again, identify missing applications so that we could do outreach to those students. We want to make sure we do that before the March 2nd deadline. So once you upload a non-SSN GPA report, what happens is that you'll get a confirmation report. This confirmation report will show you the total count. It'll show you the date. If you have any bad data records, it'll show you that as well. And this is what you'd want to see once you, this is like your confirmation page once you do your upload. And on this slide, it shows a little bit more detail. This is a non-SN GPA status report. So on this part, you will see names of your students. And then there's a column over here where it says matched. If we could go to the next slide on here. I'll pull up the next animation, sorry. Okay, so this column that's highlighted where it says it'll show matched. If they're matched, you'll see yes. You don't have to worry about it. If you see no, then there could be the last name, for example, the last name, first name, date of birth could match somebody else. If it's a common name, that may happen because we have a lot of students in the state of California. They may have the first name, date of birth match to somebody else in the same city. So we want to make sure that we confirm all that and match it up as best as possible. If you have a student with a no app status, you want to make sure that you follow up that student. That means most likely the student has not submitted a FAFSA or a CADA application. And we do have, again, there's 4 steps to this process to edit the GPAs, edit and match. You want to make sure you identify the GPAs on the non-SSN status report. You want to make sure you just obtain the student aid report from the FAFSA or SAR from the CADA. And then you want to edit the GPA to mirror the SAR or edit the non-SSN GPAs, or on the edit non-SSN GPAs screen. Once you do that, you can match the edited GPA to the FAFSA or CADA using the non-SSN GPA to the FinApp match. And we have a detailed webinar on this on our website as well. So you have that option of reviewing that as well. And we definitely want students to be their own financial aid experts. We want them to make sure they understand where their financial aid is coming from. If a student does not appear on any GPA reports, they can check their student portal. Now, the example here is the student portal of how it looks right now. We are in the process of updating this, so it look a lot cleaner, a lot sleeker, a lot sleeker, and a lot easier to read and maneuver through web grants for students, for the students. So we're currently in the process of updating that, and we hope that should be released sometime this month. No ISR data found. So web grants may not be able to locate a financial aid application, also known as the Institutional Student Information Record, so the ISR. If the application was not submitted, application was submitted within the last 10 days. We usually, when students log, won't be able to create a web grants for students until after a week and a half. So if but if there's a renewal student coming back in and they just did their FAFSA, it will not show up right away. It does take roughly about 10 days for us to receive the FAFSA information. The CADA information we receive within a day. And there's also an issue where if the match is attempted before editing the GPA, so that can cause an issue with the ISR data when it gets not found. And the Chafee Grant. So the Chafee Grant eligibility has expanded, which is great news for our foster youth. So previously the age was 23 and is now up to 26, as long as they have not reached their 26th birthday as of July 1st of the award year. students who applied previously that had previously aged out have all been put back into consideration and reviewed under this provision. With this provision also came basically it limited the amount of years that they could be paid for the Chafee Grant to a total of 5 years. So whichever is basically greater, if they're going to age out due to age or if they've already exceeded the 5 years. So for example, if they're age 25, then they only have 1 year left of eligibility. And Cal Grant B for Foster Youth, which is brand new. Basically, this extends under AB 1809, extends high school entitlement grant for up to the age of 26 of the award year. So the March 2nd deadline basically extended all the way to September 2nd for foster youth attending a California community college. Maximum it used to be 4 years, now it's extended up to 8 years for our foster youth that are enrolling in an eligible college. So this is great news for our foster youth. We do have a foster youth status verification screen. This allows schools, colleges to verify if a student is eligible for the Cal Grant B extension. Only used for the Cal Grant B extension for foster youth. You may have a student that qualifies for the Cal Grant B extension, but may not qualify for the Chafee. Since the Chafee grant is from 16 to 18, the student may have ended their foster youth time frame before that age, and they may not be eligible for Chafee depending on when they exited the foster care system. So this is used for 13 and up, but again, if their age ended before 16, then they would not be eligible for Chafee. So we encourage and make sure that colleges understand this is only used for the Cal Grant B extension. Definitely want to thank everyone on the call today. If you have to call us, please, more than welcome, call us. Our institutional support unit is available. The numbers listed there, as well as our email address, where you could send any questions. If you're having trouble locating any webinars or any educational tools, please let us know. We're definitely here to help. I'd like to introduce Maria Tello from the Los Angeles County Office of Education.
Hi, thank you. This is Maria from Los Angeles County Office of Education. Here to talk a little bit about our best practices for our FAFSA challenge for our 2018-2019 year. Can you hear me okay? So we had our goal for 2017-2018 was 33%. That's what we hit, and that year was 33%. Our goal for 18-19 was 61%, and actually it was 60%, and we exceeded it by 1%. So very proud of our team and all the hard work that we did for that goal attainment. Can you go to the next slide? So I'm going to talk a little bit about our collaborative efforts for reaching our 60% last year. Next slide, please. So we worked hand in hand with the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, specifically with the ILP program. We also work with CSAC, with John Burton, and with our probation department. Our senior program specialists, what we did is we made customized reports for each region. And within each region, we went ahead and tabbed it for the districts that fall under each specific region. So we were able to put every student that belongs to that region there and give them the results of whatever we found in web grants. We did this on a monthly basis. And then our SPSs were able to outreach to the districts and say, show them a list of the students that had completed FAFSA, those that were still pending, and provide any support necessary for them to turn those no applications to yeses. That included doing workshops and one-to-one FAFSA support. So those lists were updated monthly, and it was really amazing to see the work that they were doing and having all those no's turning into yeses as far as the FAFSA completion went. Next slide. So with DCFS and DCFS ILP, we were providing a list of 12th graders. I believe we did that 3 times, and then they were able to take that list and contact the caregivers and inform them regarding any FAFSA workshops that were coming up. I know we had contact with DCFS, who then went ahead and took our flyers or any workshop information and put it through their email blast service. And that went directly out to caregivers, to anybody that is signed up to that. So that is a massive email, which got our word out to many, many people. And that helped us have more awareness out there and more attendance into our workshops, definitely. Next slide, please. With probation, we were able to identify through our 5.7 CalPAS list which of our students were labeled as probation students. We then went ahead and worked. This one we were actually doing on a weekly basis, working with our LA County Probation Department and customizing reports on a weekly. So they were able to then filter that information to their staff, and they were able to go out to the home, to the group homes or wherever that they needed to go to get these students that needed the FAFSA to be completed, to get it done. We were also on monthly phone calls and conferences to get any information and to provide any support that was needed, whether it was identifying the foster youth, identifying their placement, or anything that was coming up as they went out to do their FAFSA visits. Next slide, please. Our goal for this year for the 1920 FAFSA Challenge is 65%, and we're very sure we're going to meet it and hopefully exceed it. And our plan is to continue to engage with our key collaborators, our customized reports with LA County Probation Department, and those calls will now go from weekly to monthly, because now after our first successful year of collaboration with them, they are more comfortable now and working a little bit more independently. So they will be turning those calls into monthly instead of weekly. We will be now providing customized reports as well to DCFS and ILP on a monthly basis. We will continue to customize our reports by region for our districts, and supporting our foster youth liaisons, and continue with our one-on-one trainings and our workshops that we've been providing to date. Also, the plan is to, last year we were able to collaborate with LAUSD, but this year we're going to be doing it more intensively. We will also be creating a customized report for LAUSD, and they will now be joining us on our monthly phone calls with DCFS and probation, so we make sure that we're all working together and also combining resources, if any, so we can go ahead and support each other in this process and hopefully attaining our goal this year. Next slide. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tia.
Thank you, Maria. You guys are doing some really awesome work over there in LA County, and I'm really excited to, I'm always excited to talk to LA County. You guys have some great stuff that's going on. All right, so now I'm going to talk about what is upcoming. So we have some upcoming webinars to support you as you're completing FAFSAs with your youth. This one is going to be shared more widely, so I encourage you to share the upcoming webinar to completing the FAFSA with your foster youth, and also we will be doing a separate one to complete a FAFSA with your homeless youth in your counties. You can register now. We actually have them up on our website as we speak, and so I'm very excited that we will be hosting those again this year. We have some upcoming events. The Blueprint Conference is coming up. It's coming up very soon, October 28th to 29th. You can register for that still on our California College Pathways website. We have the Ed Summit that is coming up April 20th and 2020. And then the TAY Conference also coming up in 2020 in March, from March 2nd to March 3rd. And then this year we're also going to be doing some FAFSA Challenge peer learning calls. And so we are going to be doing some more conversations around, how to understand the GPA verification process, working with your high schools, some institutionalization work. And so I'm very excited to get some of our counties onto these calls to have a robust conversation and interactive meeting about meeting your goals in your county. Okay, and at this point in the webinar, we are going to be answering questions. I'm actually going to turn it over to Debbie, who will be helping to facilitate our questions and answers.
Great. So thank you, everybody, for being on the webinar. This is Debbie Rauscher. I'm with John Burton Advocates for Youth. And if you do have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat. I'm going to start, Tia, with a couple of questions for you. The first one is the financial aid guide. Is that going to be available in Spanish as well?
Great question. Yes, this will also be available in Spanish. We just received our edits for our English guide, and we'll be sending it to the translator soon to get the edits for Spanish. But yes, it will be available in Spanish again this year as well, and it'll be available to order.
Great. And then could you send the links out to people on the webinar for the upcoming webinars that you mentioned around completing the FAFSA? You're going to be doing a follow-up email?
Yes, I will be sending the links to register as well as the links to register for the webinars for the FAFSA challenge and as well the handouts for today. Great question.
And Santiago, I have a couple questions for you. So one is about the renewal requirements. You mentioned that for web grant administrators who have access within their county Office of Education to web grants, that there's a renewal process. Can you just say a little bit more about what counties need to do to make sure that they're up to date and how they know when their access is going to be expiring?
What I would definitely check with the authorized official, whoever submitted the form originally. You could also call into our institutional support line, and they would be able to tell you exactly when it's going to expire if the authorized official can't remember or maybe lost his copy of the form. But what will end up happening as well, which will be kind of a reminder, is that when you try logging in, you won't be able to log in. And then you'll know there's something happening there, and then that needs to be renewed.
Okay, but I'm assuming folks should probably check in on their status before that so that they don't lose any time where they suddenly don't have access. And then, so can you say a little bit more about, do they just complete the same form that they did the first time around? Do they need to still list all of the schools?
They just basically, they don't have to list all the schools, and that's the key part is you want to hit renew and put your username on there. So just renewing what you've already established. Unless you're adding something new that you need new access for a new area, then you would, or list a school, then you would include that on there.
Okay, great. And then we've had a couple of questions about the GPA matching and fixing errors. So can you clarify who is it that has the capacity to fix errors on the GPA? So if they see, for example, that somebody's matched on last name, address, date of birth, but they're not matched on first name, and so you figure, okay, it's listed as, you know, Caroline with an I in one place and Caroline with a Y in another place, and that has to be corrected. And, you know, who does that?
The biggest problem that we come across, we may have students that when they fill out, they're known as, for example, you know, maybe they're known as Skippy in school, and they fill out their FAFSA as Skippy, but the real name's Robert, and then there's that mismatch, right? So usually the high school counselors are able to identify issues like that, and they can go and do a single edit if they need to, and make that correction to match it up, say, no, this is this student. And a lot of that, we do have a separate webinar in place as well that goes into more detail on how to actually go through that process of editing and matching as well.
Okay, so the high school counselor is somebody that has the capacity to go in and make that kind of change.
It's usually either the high school counselors or somebody from the school district that can go in there and edit that and match them up.
Got it. And then we know that a lot of our foster youth are moving around to different schools. So if the GPA was uploaded by school A and now they're at school B, can either school make that change, or does it have to be the one that initially uploaded?
Well, it's going to be, so hopefully it's the school that uploads it. It's going to be their latest school, right, that they're at right now will upload. but they can always go in. So if they upload multiple GPAs, it's fine. We just want to make sure that we have a GPA in there. And
Right.
that's the key, is that we just want to make sure that a GPA is in there. But schools can only edit their own GPAs.
Tia, I'm going to turn it back over to you for the remaining questions.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate you facilitating that for me. Santiago, we do have a couple additional questions. Is there a direct number that students can call if they're having trouble receiving the grant money, or there is a step that they thought was completed but is not?
Yeah, they can give us a call at our student support line, and it's on our website as well. It's the 888-224-7268. Again, that's 888-224-7268. And students will have different options to either connect to somebody that can handle them with the help them with the Cal Grant, or with their CADA, with their middle class scholarship, or with their Chafee Grant. So we have different options for them, so that we have representatives that can help them with questions. They could also email as well to our student support at csac.ca.gov. Again, that's student support at csac.ca.gov.
Awesome. And I also wanted to note that on top of what Santiago just shared within the web grants manual, on the last page is the phone number for the institutional support, student support, and for the IT service desk. And so you have that is available to you as we speak on the website. We have another question for you, Santiago. Can foster youth access the Cal Grant B within the 8-year window without using their Pell Grant?
So can you clarify that question? Without using the Pell Grant? So so this is just for Cal Grant purposes. Can you repeat the question one more time? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I apologize.
No, that's okay. So if can a student access the Cal Grant B within the 8 years and not touch their Pell Grant? Are those one and the same? Do they have to use Pell Grant first in order to use their Cal Grant?
They could use the Cal Grant and the Pell Grant at the same time. What they would want to do is work with their the college's financial aid office, because they're going to tell them, what if you're going to have like an unmet need, and so the colleges will make a financial aid package, and they'll put everything together for them. So they can use the Cal Grant and Pell Grant, any of the scholarships, Chafee Grant as well at the same time, all three at the same time if they need to. It all depends how much need the student has. We definitely want them to take advantage of as much aid as possible, and not go towards loans, and just use as much free money as possible.
Yeah, thank you. We have an additional question in regards to campuses or high schools that are non-accredited. And you had mentioned that non-accredited high schools can send in test scores such as ACTs, SATs. How would they do this? And then what does that process look like? And what would be an example of a non-accredited high school? And would that include a non-public school?
So there's some private high schools that are non-accredited. So I don't know any of the local schools in the area to give you a good example. But if there was an issue like that, what we have them do is send in the GPA verification form, and they just basically it's going to be a manual process where they have to mail that into us, or they could email. If they scan everything, they could email it as well to our student support email address. And then we have a conversion chart to convert any test scores, SAT scores, GED scores, and convert it over to an actual score to be comparable to a GPA.
And so just to clarify, would they submit the scores and the GPA form, the GPA verification form?
Yeah, it'd be the GPA verification form that you would include, because the top of the GPA form has the student's information that we would need, so that we can make sure that we attach it to the right student.
Okay. And this form is available online?
Yes, it's online.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Okay, believe that if you have any other last questions, looks like we had one more question that just came in. Undocumented students applying for SIJS, should they apply for the FAFSA? Debbie, I'm actually going to turn this one to you because I believe you have more knowledge on this one than I do.
So yeah, the question is so there's something called special immigrant juvenile status, which is foster youth can apply for a green card essentially, and because by virtue of the fact that they're in the foster care system. And so if somebody has an SIJS application pending, they are not eligible to submit a FAFSA. They're not eligible for federal aid. And so it's crucial that students in that circumstance, if the SIJS has not already been started, to make sure that that gets put in place as soon as possible, because it does take quite a bit of time for that to go through. And until it's approved, unfortunately, they don't yet qualify for federal financial aid. So they would have to do the California DREAM Act application to see if they might qualify for some state-based aid, but not the federal aid.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, looks like we have a couple.
They would, I think, so actually, Santiago, maybe you can remind me, a student in that circumstance, can they qualify for a Chafee Grant?
Yes, they can.
Yeah, so those students can qualify for the Chafee Grant. So in addition to submitting the CADA, they should submit the Chafee application as well.
Right. And our new website portal, I wish I had an example to show everybody, but it's going to look great. They're going to be able to see all their grants that they may be eligible for and any missing requirements all on one page. So it's going to be a lot easier even for our foster youth to see, oh, I have, I might be eligible for this. Let me get the requirements filled, because sometimes maybe the CADA is not matching, or we can't, the CADA is not matching to their Chafee application. So this will help get a lot of those situations corrected in the future.
And I have one question for Maria about the work that's happening in Los Angeles. So I'm curious, it sounds, Maria, like from what you described, that you're really leveraging your partners in a significant way, that the majority of the FAFSAs are actually being completed by ILP or by school counselors or by the probation department. I'm curious if you have a sense of sort of how many FAFSAs does your team at LACO end up having to take responsibility for versus how many get done through your partnerships?
Well, we actually go out to let's say we do the workshops, the partners bring the students to us, and then our staff is literally there with the computers filling out applications and ILP. We have our partners there actually physically filling. So our college partners as well, they're there filling out applications. So we're all there working as a team with laptops and filling them out together in a collaboration, making sure that depending on how many kids we have showing up, then we're all there, hands-on doing the work to make sure that they're filling out the application. I mean, I know some of our team members have gone out to like Starbucks to fill out applications with students, have gone out to group homes. So it just, it's just a collaborative effort with the different partners, and just maybe creating the space or pulling out the students, or just, based on the customized report that we have, making sure that these students are being met one-on-one and, maybe receiving the assistance that they need.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and at this point, it sounds like, it doesn't look like we have any, looks like we have another question that just came in. Should you be including, yes, you want to include your your 5th and 6th year seniors. And so we understand that you may not be able to get 100% of your students to complete. However, if they are classified as 12th graders in this academic year, then you want to make sure that you are at least attempting to complete a FAFSA with them. Because if they are able to get those credits and to graduate and potentially start college in the fall, we want to make sure that they have access to all those resources. And at this point, we don't have any other questions. I want to thank everybody who was on the call today for really taking the time to answer these questions meaningfully and really sharing your practices. Thank you so much from CSAC and Liberty from CDE, from the Department of Education, for answering our questions and for your time today. Again, you will be receiving a follow-up email here today. You should have already received a registration form, and again, within 24 hours of registering, you will receive your form to order promotional items. Please contact me if you have questions. I am available via email, phone, video conference, and again, thank you everyone for participating today.